So there's something interesting that's starting to come out about the weight loss injections. And no, of course, I'm not talking about whether they work or not, because clearly for many people, they do help massively with weight loss. What I think is more interesting is what's happening after. So I was reading recently about research showing that many people regain weight after stopping medications like the Wegovy and the Mounjaro. And honestly, I don't think that the regain itself is the surprising part. I think the surprising part is that people expected anything different. Because if your appetite changes, but someone's relationship with food doesn't, then what actually does change long term? I think this is a conversation we need to start having more honestly. Not from a place of judgment either. Not a anti-medication, I'm not against this. But from a place of understanding what actually creates lasting change for people. Now, before I go any further, I want to be absolutely crystal clear. This is not a video attacking people using these medications. I think they're a great tool for many people. These can be literally life-changing. They can reduce food noise. They can create breathing room, help people feel more in control around food for the first time in decades. And honestly, if someone who's struggled for years and finally feels some kind of relief, then that matters and it's totally legit for me. But I think what's happening online right now is that the conversation is becoming very black or white. You are either these drugs are 100% a miracle the answer, or these drugs are terrible and no one should be taking them. And real life is usually more complicated than that, because the reality is weight loss has never just been about appetite. That's the part that I think many people intuitively actually understand already, because most people I speak to already know what they should be doing, they're just not doing it. The struggle usually isn't from more information, it's more implementation. It's what happens in real life. Stress, overwhelm, exhaustion, emotional eating, all or nothing thinking, foods used for comfort, and that medication can 100% stop their appetite, but it doesn't automatically rebuild someone's relationship with food. And I think this is the more important question. What happens when you stop taking the medication? Because if someone loses weight but then still believes that they've blown it, I'll start again on Monday, or I need to be perfect, I can't cope without food, chocolate is life, then the deeper struggle is still sitting and bubbling underneath the surface. Just quieter for a while. And I think this explains why so many people are quietly anxious about actually stopping. Not just because of the weight gain, but because many people don't fully trust themselves around food still. And that deeper fear is more terrifying, because I understand that fear, because for years the weight loss industry has trained people to focus almost entirely on rules, restriction, suppression, control, and never touching on, never helping them build self-trust, emotional awareness, flexibility in their choices, coping skills, consistency when life is messy. So when a tool that removes appetite, removes desire, it will feel incredible initially. But if nothing changes underneath, then eventually real life shows up and causes havoc again. Stress still happens, emotional still happen, hard days still happen. And that's where the bigger conversation has to begin. I actually think that one of the biggest problems in weight loss has nothing to do with food itself. It's not the food choices, it's the belief that people should be able to do this through willpower alone. Because that's what I see and hear over and over again. It's people blaming themselves for behaviours that totally make sense when in context. You've been good all day, but you're exhausted. You finally sit down at 9 o'clock, suddenly food becomes your own form of comfort. That's not stupidity, it's not weakness, it's you seeking comfort. And if someone doesn't learn how to understand those moments differently, then eventually they end up back in that same cycle of being on track, off track, starting over, feeling guilty, trying harder. And this is why behavior change matters so much. Not because medication is bad, but because sustainable change usually needs more than just one tool. So in my opinion, the people who do best long term are not necessarily the people with the most discipline. They're usually the people who start building awareness, self-compassion, emotional regulation, flexibility, realistic habits, have great support systems. They'll learn how to pause before reacting, and they stop seeing one difficult moment as a complete failure. They stop trying to earn food or punish themselves for eating it. And then, slowly what we see is they build trust with themselves again. That's the part I think that deserves far more attention in this entire conversation than anything else. Because lasting change rarely comes from finally finding that perfect workout, that perfect tool. It usually comes from learning how to navigate real life differently. Honestly, that's slower, it's less exciting, it's less marketable, it's less sexy, but I do think it's much more sustainable. So, no, I don't think that the conversation around weight loss injection is clear cut or simple. I don't think it should be a war between medication fixes everything or medication is cheating. I think the more useful question is, what helps someone create change that actually lasts after the motivation's faded, after the novelty has gone or the medication has stopped? Because ultimately, that's the part that determines whether someone feels free around food long term or not. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, especially if this is something that's personally you've experienced or you've thought about. And if this video resonated, then I'm going to link some free resources below that go deeper into emotional eating, all or nothing thinking, and building a healthy relationship with food. See you in the next one.